he's going through, and then finishing the race. That guy was going to finish that race. He had basically a torn hamstring is what it was. You saw him go down to the track, all those type of things. But he had done all that training. He was going to finish the fight. So I'm thinking of Paul. I'm thinking of Paul as he's running the track, same way. Shipwrecked, falling down, lashes, being stoned at. He's going around the track in his race. And taking all that heartache and pain and all that type of stuff, but still doing what? He still wants to finish the race, no matter what, because it's important. It was important to that guy to finish that race, the 4 years that he put into it. He wanted to finish it. You know what was even great about that, to make the analogy? The guy that was shooing everybody off, they showed you, that was his dad. He came down out of the stands. He said, that's my son. I'm going to help my son, by the way. And he got his son and he helped him up because his dad knew how important it was for him as well to finish that race, right? He knew it was important. He'd probably been by his side during all that training time and all the sacrifices that it took. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? Like God carrying us. We're having hard times, getting us to the finish line. Our Heavenly Father. Kind of the same analogy there. So I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of my thoughts when I thought about, finishing the race, finishing the course, what Paul is saying. So Paul's saying he's fought the fight. He was a warrior. He was a fighter. And he can say he fought it. Then he can say, I finished the race. I finished the course. I did what God enabled me to do and allowed me to do in spreading the gospel. And then he says, lastly, and we'll look at this just for the last few minutes we have together, I have kept the faith. Paul's trust in Jesus never wavered. Kind of like that runner did. Even though he got hurt, he's going to get up. And Paul was the same way. His faith didn't waver. Shipwrecked, moving on. Stones, moving on. Hunger, moving on. Nakedness, moving on. People don't like me, moving on. Don't like what I say, I'm moving on. I'm going on. His faith does not stop because his faith is stronger. His faith was as solid on the day of his death as it was the moment he first believed when Paul got converted on the Damascus road. Keeping the faith was not an easy task, and it's not for us, or was it for Paul either. It's a hard place to live your faith in today. Whether it be at work, school, even in athletics sometimes, a lot of times now. But proclaiming and talking about your faith is a lot harder now. How often do you have to question, can I really say that? You know, I'm at work sometimes and I'm like, should we be discussing this? There's rules against this kind of stuff. But that's what we're up against today. I was at a soccer meeting the other night with one of our other coaches who's a fine Christian, goes to Emerald Coast Fellowship. And we had some of the boys in there talking to the seniors about the upcoming season coming up. And at the end of it, James said, he looked at me and says, I'm not sure to say this, but he said, I'm going to say it anyway. I said, I know where you're going, say it. And he said it anyway. He said, and the seniors, boys, I want y'all to go to church sometime. I want y'all to get together. He said, my church, Brother Fred's church, whoever it is. And as seniors, I want y'all to go to church together. It's just one time or twice a year. Even if you don't go to church, never been to church, I want you to do it at least one time. But you know what I left at the sad part about it is we even had to question that. Could we say that to kids that are in school? Because you're not supposed to press your faith on the people, right? But when he looked at me and said that, I was like, man, we shouldn't even have to worry about saying that. And we didn't. We were going to do it anyway. And I've shared before at practice and stuff with the boys as well, too, about going to church and stuff like that. But unwavering faith, continuing to spread your faith no matter what and not being worried about it. We do have to worry about it, but as Christians, we continue on. Without question, Satan sought to derail Paul's work by opposing him at every turn. There were attacks on his integrity, his personal appearance. He didn't speak very well. He was truly hard-pressed on every side, but Paul gladly accepted the summons and never backed up on his commitment. He could have packed it in. He could have got down on that mat when the fight was on and said, tap out. Is that what they do in MMA now? You tap out when you get a submission and you're like, oh, you have to tap out so the ref will stop the fight or something. Or in the old days when I did wrestling, it was, 3 times, boom, 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 you're out of there. But with Paul, he could have tapped out at any time. Any time. And probably any one of those things that happened to Paul, I would have been like, I'm out, tap me out, quick as possible. But not Paul. Why? Because his faith was strong and the prize was too big. And he knew he had to continue on and do what he needed to do. He looked forward to the moment when he would hear God say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. So the last question I ask today then is, how about your faith? Is it still strong? Is it getting beat up a little bit? Is it wavering in the times that we're in now? Satan winning the battles? I mean, these are all questions that I ask myself that I'm asking of you today as well, and evaluating your life and where you stand with your Christian faith and where you're spreading the good news or not, and telling others about Christ and inviting them to church, or at least laying that seed a lot of time. Boy, Paul had these are some great scriptures we could take with us in our life. That you fight the fight that needs to be fought. And you can hopefully say when it's over with, I finished the race. I finished what God enabled me to do and had for me in my life. And then at the end be able to say, man, I kept the faith. I went through it all and I took a beating, Lord, and it came down on me, but I kept the faith through it all. So I think for Paul, these are great scriptures, and for all of us as well. So as believers, we should continue to fight the good fight, finish the race that God has given us, and keep the faith, no matter what. But you may be here today and you go, well, I've wavered and I've gone off stray and I've let the world beat me in this fight. And I'm off course in my race. You know the great thing about God, we spoke about that this morning in our Sunday school class as well too, is God forgives. And we can come to Him anytime and come before Him and say, Lord, forgive me. And it can be all right on track once again. Your race can be continued on. But maybe somebody's here, they don't even know Christ. They're like, I don't have a relationship with Him. I'm not who I should be. I'm not following Him. Today's the day that needs to happen. As many pastors have said up here, we've all said it before, we're never guaranteed another day on this earth. At some point, at some time, the last soul is going to be saved. Only Christ knows when that is. It could be today at First Baptist Church, Bayou Jordan. It could be down at Highland Park Baptist Church where the great Tim Tebow's speaking today. Could be in one of those places. Could be in, Piney Grove Baptist Church where there's 10 people sitting in the church today. But when the last person's saved, Christ's going to return. And we're all going to answer for our deeds. And if we haven't asked Christ into our heart to save us and are truly living for Him, that truth that we spoke about, there is a hell. But the good news is the heaven for those that do accept it. So the question is, where are you at today? I would say most everybody in here is probably saved. You never know. In just a minute, we're going to sing an invitation. We're going to ask you to come and speak to somebody if you're not. But maybe today, the challenge, maybe a little bit, is where your faith is. And are you still fighting the fight? Are you still on that course? Is your faith still strong like Paul was? So let's stand. We're going to sing a hymn of invitation. And as we said, if you want to make a decision today, come forward. Brother Kenny, Brother Steve's here. Anybody be here today? Only you can answer for you, not your mom, your dad, not your grandparents, not your houses that you've grown up with before. Only you can answer for the deeds and the things that you do. So let's stand as we sing. Wherever He leads, I'll go. 285. Let's just sing a verse or two. You do as God leads you to do this morning. Not anybody else, but as God leads you to do as we sing. Take up thy cross and follow me. I heard my Master say, I gave my life to ransom thee. Surrender your all today. Wherever He leads, I'll go. Wherever He leads, I'll go. Follow my Christ who loves me so. Wherever He leads, I'll go. Well, thank you for being here today. We're going to have prayer in just a moment. And then after that, those that would like to stay to hear a little bit more, Brother Kenny, about the pastor's search. Probably won't take maybe 5-10 minutes. Won't take long to do that. We're going to invite you to stay. We'll wait just a couple minutes for those that want to head out, to get out before we start that little talk.